My sister-in-law's friend crashed our anniversary, flirted with my husband and crossed the line. But the real drama started after the party. It was a wonderful occasion for my husband and me, our 10th wedding anniversary. We had arranged a small event at our home with close relatives and friends, and we were both looking forward to celebrating. However, things took a bizarre turn when my sister-in-law's best friend, Amanda, stepped up unexpectedly. Amanda had always been clinging to my husband, but I didn't think much of it. However, as soon as she entered our home, I realized something was wrong. She smirked at me and made a beeline for my husband, who was greeting our visitors. I tried to ignore it and enjoy the evening, but Amanda continued to find ways to get close to my husband. She laughed a little too hard at his jokes, and I noticed her flashing him smoldering looks from the corner of my eye. I began to feel worried when I overheard her asking my husband if he wanted to go outside and get some fresh air. My husband respectfully declined, but I could tell he was becoming uncomfortable with Amanda's attention. As the night progressed, she became more aggressive in her pursuit. She continued stroking his arm, attempting to persuade him to dance with her, and even offered to help him clean up after the party. I didn't like how she was acting, but I fully trusted my husband. I knew he loved me and would never do anything to jeopardize our relationship. Later that night, after the majority of our visitors had left, my husband and I were sitting on the couch, enjoying some peaceful time together. I was relaxed until Amanda appeared out of nowhere. She had a sneaky smirk on her face and made a snide comment about our marriage. My husband did not answer, and I could tell he was becoming uncomfortable. Amanda kept pushing, hoping to elicit a response from him, but he remained faithful to me and firmly stated that he was happily married and had no interest in her efforts. Amanda eventually got the word and left our house, but the damage was already done. I was saddened and perplexed by her actions, but I was thankful that my husband had remained loyal and faithful to me throughout. We discussed what had transpired and promised to always be honest and open with one another. It was a painful event, but it drew us closer together and deepened our relationship. The next day, I decided to speak with my sister-in-law about what transpired at the party. I wanted her to understand Amanda's actions, especially since she was her best friend. I approached her softly, avoiding excessive drama or broken feelings. I recounted what Amanda had done and how uncomfortable it had made both myself and my husband. My sister-in-law was stunned and apologized profusely. She had no idea her friend had acted that way, and she promised to talk to Amanda and clear things up. I could see she was serious in her regret, which made me feel a lot better knowing she was on my side. It also helped that my husband had been extremely supportive and faithful throughout the situation. After our chat, I felt like a weight had been lifted from my shoulders. I knew Amanda's actions were not my responsibility, and that my relationship with my husband was strong enough to withstand any outside interference. Amanda's antics ultimately made me appreciate my hubby even more. Even in the face of temptation, he had remained loyal and honest to me, and that was something I would always value and love. Update 1. My sister-in-law called to tell me about her talk with Amanda. She informed me she challenged a buddy about her actions at our anniversary party. Amanda was initially defensive, but finally apologized. My sister-in-law was furious with Amanda for putting me and my husband in such an uncomfortable situation. She told me that she had told Amanda that her behavior was unacceptable and that she would not allow any disrespect to her family. I could hear the rage in her words, but I valued her support and commitment. She told me that Amanda had been sufficiently reprimanded and that she would maintain her distance from me and my husband in the future. As much as I liked my sister-in-law's response, I couldn't help but feel unhappy about the overall scenario. Amanda was a lifelong friend of my sister-in-law, and I knew their relationship would never be the same. But, at the end of the day, my spouse and I were the most significant persons in each other's life. Amanda had learned her lesson the hard way. She may have generated drama at our anniversary party, but in the end, she only succeeded in deepening my link with my husband, demonstrating how devoted we were to one another. Update 2. A few weeks have gone after the event with Amanda, and things are beginning to calm down. My sister-in-law has maintained a distance from her former closest friend, and my husband and I have resumed our normal routine. But one day, I received an unexpected message from Amanda. It was an apology, but not the one I expected. I'm sorry for what happened at your anniversary party," she had written. "But, honestly, you're not much of a catch. Your husband probably settled for you because he couldn't do better. You should be grateful that I expressed an interest in him." Her statements astonished and hurt me. I couldn't believe that someone who had previously been a friend to someone so close to me could say anything so harsh and mean-spirited. I presented the message to my husband, and he was equally furious as I was. He couldn't believe Amanda would dive so low, and he was pleased he had parted ways with her. Although Amanda's message had devastated me, I couldn't help but feel sad for her. She was clearly coming from a place of uncertainty and grief, and her remarks just reflected her own internal issues. So I opted to respond in a sympathetic tone, rather than one of wrath or defense. "I appreciate your apology, Amanda," I replied. "And I understand that your upbringing must have been difficult, with parents who showed you no love or affection. It's no surprise that you suffer with jealousy and insecurity in your relationships." I knew my remarks would strike deep, but I couldn't help but feel relieved that I had finally gained control of the situation. "But you're wrong about one thing," I added. "My hubby did not settle for me. He selected me because he loves me just as I am, warts and all. And that is something you will never understand because you are too busy trying to bring others down in order to feel good about yourself." I pressed submit, feeling a wave of relief sweep over me. It was not the most adult response, but it felt good to defend myself and put Amanda in her place. In the end, I realized that Amanda's statements did not define me or my relationship with my husband. We were content and in love, and nothing could change that. As for Amanda, I was willing to let her go and get on with my life, surrounded by those who actually loved and supported me. Comments and reactions. NTA. I genuinely feel horrible for the OP and her hubby. They did not deserve to have their beautiful day destroyed in that way, but I am glad they handled it with grace and respect. Amanda appears to be a bit of a drama queen and attention seeker. It's unfortunate, but some people simply can't take not being the focus of attention. NTA. Amanda's behavior is completely unacceptable. She should be ashamed of herself for attempting to separate a married couple like that. It's not adorable or funny, it's simply sad. I believe OP handled the situation effectively. She did not let Amanda's conduct ruin her night, and she did not respond to her message on her level. That requires a great deal of maturity and self-control. Amanda has some significant difficulties that she needs to resolve. I'm not sure why she would do anything like this, especially to her closest friend's family. What did she expect to achieve by flirting with someone else's husband? It's simply selfish and insulting. Amanda needs to learn boundaries and respect. She can't just walk into someone's gathering unannounced and start causing problems. It's immature and demonstrates a total lack of social understanding. I believe it's amazing that OP and her husband were able to move on from this and not allow it to destroy their relationship. It demonstrates that they have a stable and healthy marriage. Now to the next story, story 2. My parents have chased away every boyfriend I have ever had. How can I prevent this from ruining my relationship with my current boyfriend? Original, February 13, 2025. I was very shy during high school and didn't leave my house unless I had to, so as a result I didn't get a boyfriend until my freshman year of college. After 7 months of dating my first ever boyfriend, I brought him to my parents' house for dinner, just so they could meet him. I had to step away for roughly 10 minutes to help my older sister with her baby, and when I came back, my BF, then 20 male, and my dad, old, were having a full-blown fistfight. We managed to stop them and my BF stormed off without saying anything, while my dad insisted my BF was incredibly rude and disrespectful to him and my mother and that a guy like that was no good for me, because he'd just end up doing the same thing to me. I was shocked that my BF could do such a thing because he had always been extremely sweet and I've never met or heard of anyone not liking him, but when I called him and told him what my dad had said about what happened, all he did was laugh and say I can believe whatever I want, before blocking me on everything. I was deeply disturbed by this, but my mom and sister insisted that he had just shown his true colors, and said my dad saved me from an abuser. I reluctantly accepted this, but something about it felt really off. I met my second boyfriend several months later, during my sophomore year. Part of me still felt my parents were part of the problem with my last BF, so I managed to get him to wait an entire year before introducing him to my parents. From the moment she laid eyes on him, every word my mom spoke to him was dripping with fake friendliness and subtle jabs implying she did not approve of him, which made him visibly uncomfortable. While we were eating dinner, she began asking me why I decided to date my BF, and asked about other guys and why they didn't work out. Some of the guys she asked about were completely made up. At this point it was clear what they were trying to do, and I silently vowed to talk to my boyfriend and tell him how my parents were trying to sabotage me. Unfortunately, it didn't get that far, as my dad chipped in and demanded to know how a boy, who couldn't support himself financially, was ever going to support his daughter. Mind you, we were both juniors in college at this point, and both of us were working part-time jobs. So this question was really insane. He responded by saying he'd already decided he wanted nothing to do with this family and was planning to break up with me when he got home, but he's just going to leave now. Within minutes, he was gone and I was blocked. Again. My parents insisted they did nothing wrong and just wanted to test his confidence as any parents would, but I pointed out that this was the second boyfriend they chased away, And they didn't do anything to scare off my older sister's husband. I went low contact with them after that, but fast forwarding a little bit, I eventually allowed them to gaslight me into introducing them to my third boyfriend, whom I had met towards the end of my senior year, and basically the same thing happened. I had made it through college unable to find a long-term BF, purely because of my parents. I did meet my current boyfriend, 28 male, 2 years ago, and I have managed to avoid introducing him to my family thus far. If he ever brought it up, I would always have a ready-made excuse prepared to explain why it wasn't possible, which has been pretty easy because he usually only asks about them when planning for major holidays. I have fallen madly in love with him and hope to start a family with him one day, but he recently told me that he can't even allow me to move in with him until he's had a chance to meet my family. I do not know what to do, as I know my parents will make it their mission to break us up if they meet him, but based on his insistence on meeting them, I realize I can't put this off any longer. Usually, relationships end because of something one person in the relationship says or does, and it's incredibly unfair that I always end up single because of things I cannot control. I want to tell my BF about my parents and insist that meeting them is a bad idea, but I've listened in on some of his conversations with his friends, and the general consensus among them seems to be that a girl with a super dysfunctional family is a massive red flag, and an indicator of what their married life would be like. So I come here asking, how do I approach the problem that is my parents without risking losing the longest relationship I've ever had? If my parents end up being the cause of yet another breakup, I just don't know what I'll do. I just don't know. Edit. Wow, I made this post about an hour before going to bed, but woke up to quite a few comments here. Thank you so much to everyone who has helped me realize what I need to do. I've read through all of the comments and saw some recurring questions come up that I wanted to address. I am not fully in contact with my parents primarily because they helped me a lot financially during college and when I first graduated and was looking for a job. When I went low contact with them, they constantly yelled at me for being ungrateful and said family does not turn on each other over minor disagreements involving boys. It sounds ridiculous when I type it here, but after months of this treatment, when I found myself faced with the decision to either tell them I forgive them so they'll pay for my dorm room, or refuse to forgive them and have to move back home, I ended up caving. Why didn't I stand up for my past BFs when I saw them being verbally abused? I don't know. I've never been allowed to talk back to my parents, so the thought of calling them out while we have company over is not something I realized I could do, I guess. My arguments with them after they ran off BF 2 and 3 were the only times I've ever come into full conflict with them in my entire life. I will be going to my boyfriend's house today after work, and will tell him everything. I am terrified he will still want to meet them, just thinking about it has me shaking at my desk. But you all are right. He has a right to know and make his own decision. Edit 2. I told him and even showed him this post. To make a long story short, he still would like to meet them but thanked me for telling him, as he always figured something was seriously wrong. My parents host dinners for our family every Sunday, and we will be attending this one. I suppose I'll make a new post with an update afterwards. Top comments. Comment 1. You stop bringing anyone you like around them. Period. Tell your boyfriend why. They get weird and run anyone you date off with their nonsense and you'd rather just avoid them altogether. My boyfriend knows all about my dysfunctional family and abusive upbringing. It didn't run him off. If anything, it brought us closer as he empathized. ETA. We just celebrated 6 years together. The right partner won't hold your family against you. You couldn't choose them, after all. Comment 2. If your plan is to stay with him in the long run, you have 2 options. 1. Come clean about why you don't want them to meet and explain exactly why you're scared of them meeting, or 2. Cut off your parents entirely and tell your boyfriend you cut them off. Ideally, either way you end up telling him why you chose what you chose. Good relationships take communication, and if your boyfriend doesn't know why he's being kept away from your family, that most likely will be the reason you break up. Update, February 18, 2025, 5 days from original update. I meant to make this update a lot sooner, but since my last post a lot has happened. I truly appreciate all the comments I received calling me out for hiding my parents being insane from my BF and encouraging me to be honest with him. My boyfriend is pretty involved now, so I guess I should give him a fake name. I will call him Ethan. I sat Ethan down and told him about my parents and how they ran off my previous boyfriends, before showing him my original post as many recommended. Fortunately, he did not seem to care that I hadn't told him, but he did agree with many commenters that my parents were more than just insane. They were outright abusive. Although he understood how I felt, he still said he would like to meet them, both to see it for himself, but also because he felt there was an underlying reason for their behavior. My parents have dinner for the family every Sunday, which I have been attending on the weeks that I'm not hanging out with Ethan that day, so we agreed that he would come to the next one. When Sunday came and we arrived at my parents' house, my anxiety was through the roof. Ethan had agreed to leave with me the moment things started to get out of hand, but with my parents that could have easily been as soon as we walked through the front door. My parents were surprisingly very nice, though. My dad actually seemed excited to see Ethan, and my mom fawned over her daughter bringing home such a handsome, confident-looking man. I couldn't understand what was happening. Ethan even shot me a look a couple times, as if to silently ask if he was missing something, because my parents were actually lovely. I want to provide a play-by-play of the entire night, but the post would just be too long. The point is, my parents had done a complete 180 from their previous behavior, and it made me look and feel crazy for trying to warn Ethan about them ahead of time. During dinner, my mom said she was so happy to see her daughter had finally found someone who wasn't judgmental and was willing to give me a chance because of the person I am today, because the past doesn't matter. My heart dropped. What was she talking about? Ethan said he does not know about anything in my past that may be cause of concern, and my parents exchanged a concerned look, as if it was rehearsed. My dad asked him why he thinks my previous relationships failed, and he said that he was under the impression they got scared away after meeting my parents. My mother looked at me with disappointment on her face and said, "Oh P, is that really what you told him?" I was at a loss for words, but Ethan was not. He said that it's pretty clear they are trying to plant seeds of doubt in him about our relationship, but he is not interested, as he knows me well enough to know my character and that even if there was something serious in my past, parents who loved and supported me or even just wanted grandchildren would keep it a secret to avoid ruining my relationship. My dad said he already has 2 grandchildren, and motioned towards my sister, who did not have her kids with her that evening. Ethan said my dad must have been very supportive of my sister for her to be able to start a family while he tries to run off any guy I bring home, and my dad's response was very casual, but extremely shocking. He said, "Of course, she's actually mine." Everyone was quiet for a few moments, until Ethan spoke up and said that now all of the abuse they've only put me through is starting to make sense. My mom said he's spouting nonsense, and that I have not been abused in any way. She then looked at me and admitted her marriage had a rocky start, but both her and my father have moved past that. I was too busy replaying my entire life in my head to say anything. The previous boyfriends, the lack of support for my social outings growing up, the volleyball games I had to have a friend drive me to because my parents were always too busy, the rage I was always at risk of facing if I ever spoke my mind. All while my sister got the opposite. I started to cry, the hardest I ever have. Ethan immediately announced that we were leaving. My dad demanded we stay where we are so we can clear things up, but Ethan ignored him as he pulled me out of my chair and led me away. My mom screamed at me not to leave, and that this guy was trying to isolate me from my family. I yelled back that if anyone had been trying to isolate me, it was her, for my whole life. As we drove back to Ethan's place, my mom sent me several text messages cussing me out, saying one mistake doesn't change the fact that my dad loved, supported, and raised me, and that he would always be my real father. Ethan said he's not my dad, he's an abusive, controlling asshole who was taking his insecurities out on me. I ended up blocking both of my parents' numbers because they were saying some truly awful things to me, both about myself and Ethan. Ethan said he was expecting them to be crazy, but this was far worse than he could have anticipated. He said I need to go into therapy immediately, and that he will pay for anything my insurance doesn't cover. My parents showed up at my apartment twice yesterday to demand I come out and speak to them, but I've been staying at Ethan's all weekend and will likely be here all week. I'm not sure if this is the update y'all wanted. I had countless people enraged at me for being spineless and not standing up to my parents, and while I had planned on doing so, that's not what happened. I don't know what is going to happen with my parents, or where I go from here. But now that the holiday is over, I can spend some time looking for a good therapist. Top comments. So your mom cheated on your dad and you are the affair baby and they treated you poorly because of that. Is that the story, or has my reading comprehension failed me? Maybe you have a great father out there somewhere. 23andMe? Ethan sounds great. The truth shall set you free.
Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell to stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.